Hello and welcome to the show. I've got more of your automation creations today, taking on the Italian rally stage. Will we find anything that can beat the Tinfoil RS? I don't know. Up first, though, we have got the TM Motors XTSS, built by, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Goshu. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there we go. 415 horsepower from the turbocharged i5 up at the front, all-wheel drive. We have got off-road tyres, decent-sized brakes, not crazy-sized brakes, but decent-sized brakes around the car. And most importantly of all, we have scaffolding on the rear wing. An important part, the first car we've actually had with scaffolding on the wing. I mean, bonus points for that might not necessarily make it any faster, however, bonus points regardless. Have we got ABS? No, we do not, although we have a lot of understeer into this first corner, so that's going to be fun to be dealing with down here. Brakes seem pretty good actually. It'll get slowed down. I'm slightly worried about the lack of grip. Now, the off-road tyres are not the ideal choice. They can work. We've had a couple of cars be very fast with them. They can work, but there are other compounds that are better because this is a weird dusty surface, not full-on dirt. So, yeah, off-road tyres perhaps not the greatest of compounds, and we are certainly struggling a little bit for grip. I don't really have confidence to throw this car through a corner. Oh, get slowed down there, you big old boat. It might be a little bit of a heavier car as well. That could explain, possibly. I'm not 100% sure of the weight on this one. Can't remember. But that might also explain its slight reluctance in a couple of places around here. It's actually being a pretty good first run if I don't do that. No, we did that. Up until that point, it was going quite well. We've recovered it nicely in true rally fashion. Oh, that's in a neutral. Gears quite long. It's geared okay, but we are only using first and second, and I'm going to put it in neutral because I think I need to go down more. We've had quite a lot of cars running. Oh, I've missed that checkpoint. I dinked that one. Game. Game. We'll just go park it down here. It's fine. There we go. The engine's turned off. It'll not be drowned. Something like that. Okay. Attempt number 1. Didn't quite go to plan. It looks okay. I don't think it's not quite sunburst beating level, not tinfoil beating level, but I think it is maybe a sub 20 is possible if I get everything spot on. Of course, getting everything spot on is not the easiest thing on a rally stage like this. This is not a forgiving rally stage. The smallest mistake you saw, it was only a tiny smidge wide past the rock face, and that will destroy your car. You get very little margin for error. I mean, this road is really one car wide at most points, and 3 runs to learn a car is not the easiest. We're going to have a big slide. Now, the trick with the big slides here is you've got to be really careful. It's tempting to try and do it, and this car it's at least consistent with its handling characteristics. It's tempting to go for it, however, you've got to be aware that corner tightens up something horrible towards the exit. Really easy to slide off the road into the trees. Engine-wise, no big turbo lag from this one, which is nice. You can sometimes see from the smaller turbocharged engines getting them into trouble trying to put power down. However, yeah, the engine with this, the gearing with this, it might only be first and second, but they are gears. The gears work, basically, and even if I leave it in second for some of these parts, it's still okay, it's still happy enough with that. Yeah, a little bit of understeer through there. This time we don't end up taking out the wing on the rock. Around the final hairpin we go. It's quite neatly done through there. Handbrake working is helpful. Not all cars have a working handbrake. Now, this is where I've got to be careful. We don't jink too far to the inside, and I don't have much grip to carry it. I can't go flat through there. We haven't got the grip to do it. It's going to be a 20.8, so it wasn't that far away from my guessing in terms of time. It's a solid vehicle. I think we are just lacking some grip, whether it be a combination of tyres, suspension setup. It's quite high and soft. We haven't got the big wallowy body that we have had on a few vehicles. However, it might be a little too high a centre of mass going on in this. As I said, I think it might be a little bit on the heavier side than some cars. We are talking in relation to other vehicles that have run down this course. We'll flick it through turn. It's quite fun. It's quite a fun car to drive. It's quite nice and predictable, which is always a good thing to have in a car when going down a rally stage, especially when you've got only a limited amount of attempts. Yeah, here, it's really tempting to try and keep your foot down, but this just gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and on this dusty surface, really easy to just escape out of the circuit. We're going to go flick it into the hairpin. It's actually quite nicely done through there. Yeah, it's good. I like the way it puts its power down on the exit of the hairpins. It doesn't go crazy. It's just nice and controllable. Here we go, up towards the chicane. Now this corner here is probably my favourite on the circuit. We can leave it in second and it's pulling nicely. Yeah, that's a great corner when you get things right. Unfortunately for this car, I think it's just a little bit down on grip, so we can't really chuck it through. And like here, I don't trust to throw the car sideways in there because I don't trust it's going to have enough grip to make it work. Now, get it stopped for the hairpin. Big old handbrake usage through there. We will get out the other side without it getting too twitchy. We've got just the fast back chicane to go. Tap the brakes through there, and even then that was on the limit of what the car could do. Now we make it to third gear. That's more like it. 19.4. It's a sub 1 minute 20. It's a good car. A good, solid, overall rally car. Fairly compliant. I say fairly easy to drive as far as something is easy to drive down that rally stage. It lacks a bit of grip with the really fast cars. But yeah, it's a nice, comfortable rally vehicle, I think. Engine pulls nicely. Looks pretty good. Not sure about the flame. Looks like something I got done on Need for Speed in the early 2000s. However, yeah, good looking car. Pretty nice to drive. Solid time down the stage. Up next, we have got another rally hatchback, another very, very high riding rally hatchback, built by GRC 6x6. It's called a car, I guess. Creative. Naming power, 360 horsepower from a 2.3 litre turbocharged i6 up at the front, all-wheel drive. We have got different tyres. Not quite sure which tyres. They're certainly not off-road tyres, so they might be slightly better in terms of tyre choice. Very big brakes on this car, which I like to see. No crazy amount of aero going on, however. Again, it's another one. Could be fast if it's not too wallowy. Very noisy. That much is for sure. If it's not too wallowy, it does look like there's going to be a lot of... Yeah, okay, there's a lot of body movement going on with this one. That might be a little sketchy. Yeah, it's really crashy, I think, is the way to describe it. It also doesn't feel particularly fast accelerating out of some of these corners. Second gear, I'm not sure, works through here. Look at how much it's shaking from side to side. Whether it's juddering from fear or excitement, I'm not sure, but it's certainly doing something. Presumably no ABS to worry about, although it dives something massive under brakes, and that's put us into a tree. I think that's also put a rear... That's... The rear axle is poking out. That's not quite how it should work. It's actually ridden that hit surprisingly well. The car still drives in a straight line. Oh, it's so... tree! Christ. Suspension is too soft. I'm going to go in ahead and say suspension is... I think that's buried, isn't it? Yeah, it's not getting out of there. Suspension is too soft. That's nearly tripod. It's nearly a jelly car. It's tripoding through the corners. It's one of the mistakes that we see with some cars here. This road is not bumpy. While there is a jump after the finish line, doesn't matter if it crashes after the finish line. This road isn't particularly bumpy. If I run across the inside of a couple of... You need a little bit of compliance in suspension. You can't have full-on race car suspension because there are ditches around the course that you can get the car stuck in. Especially like the inside of turn 1 here, for example. Fast cars can run down that bit. However, this is just... It's too soft and wallowy. There's so much body roll going on through the corners that just under braking it dives so much. A little scared. We're going to have to take this run here quite... Oh, come on. Get turned in. Take this run here quite cautiously because I'm not quite sure how it's going. It's not going to like the fast chicane towards the final corner. And again here, it's diving, diving, diving. Oh, brakes aren't... Brakes are pretty big, but it's not really getting stopped all that well. That's just something I'm going to have to deal with. I can probably be a bit more aggressive with the brakes. About weight transfer going on. It's nearly doing a stoppy every time I jump on the brakes. And that, of course, unloads the back of the car and makes it very, very squirrely if I have to do any steering inputs. I know you should try and brake in a straight line, but sometimes you don't have any choice but to try and correct the car, especially if it's moving around already. And if you lock up something, yeah, it's a scary combination. Scary combination. Oh, yeah, it doesn't quite get out of the corners. It's, again, got quite long gears. It's not quite as nice out of the corners as the first car we had. I don't think it's quite as fast accelerating. We bobble across the inside. It's going to be a 22.5. Oh, dear. I think that would be the issue. Even if the course was bumpy enough to require quite soft suspension, I think this would get chucked about so much that it'd actually make it worse than something with too stiffer suspension. Both would be quite bad. It's difficult to drive. to say the least. It is wobbly. You can see how much it's flexing when we're in this super slow-mo. It's very wobbly. It's too high and far too soft. We get one more attempt, though. At least it was a run, 22.5. At least it was a completed run down here. Can I get any more out of it? It's going to be difficult because you've got to make sure you don't crash it. You've got to make sure that you're composed enough, you're slow enough not to bounce your way off the course, and all it takes is one little upset anywhere, one little run across a bump perhaps, and we'll get away with chucking it a little bit sideways through there. It's not quite got the power in second gear to really do anything spectacular around that part of the circuit. Oh, look at it shuddering down here. Big stop towards the hairpin. There we go, that's fine. First gear. We've actually got the hairpin quite nicely this time around, not quite the punch out the other side. However, we got through the hairpin quite nicely. We're up towards the fast back chicane. Little bit of locking, little bit of scariness. It is through at least, still wobbling around slightly. This is one of the corners we're probably going to lose some time on, although it is at least nicely controlled. We actually get it turned in all good through there, and then we get a bounce across the road. Remember, this is a relatively smooth road. This car is not like it was going quite nicely that run up until the hairpin. This is a relatively smooth road in the grand scheme of things, and notice how much the car is making it not look like a relatively smooth road. It's got a decent amount of turning. That's kind of the annoying thing. If it had the composure to go with it, it'd probably be quite fast. Similar time in the end, 22.1 for the vehicle. Yeah, it was going quite nicely, but the final hairpin, I got a bump heading towards it and just couldn't get the car back under control in time. Yeah, suspension all sorts of bouncy and difficult to drive. I think the car had some okay grip, but you just couldn't. Like, tyre-wise, it was good. Suspension-wise, it was not quite there. Far too soft, and yeah, made what is a fairly flat road look unbelievably bumpy. The next vehicle to take on the rally stage is a rear-wheel drive car. Yes, built by Retro8821. This is the Spoon FRR 15KC. Rear-wheel drive supercar, 267 horsepower from a 2-litre turbocharged V6 at the middle. Probably good amount of horsepower. Rear-wheel drive, very high-powered rear-wheel drive cars will be sketchy as anything to drive around here. So maybe 200, like you can use 267 horsepower quite nicely, I would imagine. Pretty decent-sized tyres. They are the off-road tyres, and it is quite high in terms of the suspension. So I'm worried we might see another wobbly mess. Hopefully not. Some cars get away with being a little bit higher. So let's go and give it a try. There could be turbo lag from the vehicle. We get quite a bit of body roll. It's not quite as vicious a body roll, certainly in terms of cornering. Kind of gets chucked about backwards a bit. Might actually help it get a little bit of traction with the weight transfer, although it does also remove some weight from the front of the car, which is less than ideal for cornering, shall we say. We want some weight over the front. You know, keep those front tyres on the ground. Actually gets turned in pretty nicely around here. It is... like down here, it's really not too bad in terms of speed. Brakes are very good. In fact, brakes are very sharp on this car. That's going to be a fun one to try and get the braking points right for. No ABS on this, and it really does get slowed down. There's a lot of grip in this car. There's a lot of grip in this car. It's not really struggling too much. Now, this is going to be the sketchy bit. Don't take out any rocks. The turn-in is very good. If you've got the car set up for a corner right, the turn-in is very good. If you've got it set up wrong, you do that. It's another very soft suspension. It's a shame, because this is actually very close to being incredibly fast, I feel. Or incredibly fast, again, for a rear-wheel drive car. However, there's just a lot of movement. If you get the weight transfer perfect, sorted, it's great. However, I feel like it's going to be very easy. Don't use a handbrake in the rear-wheel drive cars. That's a stupid thing to do. It's a scruffy first run in the end. Oh, I think I've broken suspension somewhere, because it's now pulling and leaning very badly. Okay, so yeah, in all of that we have broken something in the car. There's a lot of potential for a quick car in this. However, there we're across the line. It's not the slowest car, even despite all the gallivanting off and brokenness. It's still technically faster than the Italia, I think. Or the EOS. I think the EOS is actually at the bottom at 140. Right. It's going to be a fun one. It's another wobbly car. say made a little worse by the rear-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drive is not really the problem with this. Again, it's the suspension. We can hopefully, theoretically, get away with attacking the the dirt a little bit more in some of these corners if needs must and everything. Just don't clip the actual rock. Yeah, it's a shame because there's a lot of turning in this car and there's quite a lot of traction as well from it, so it would probably be very fast might even give the W90 a bit of a scare if it wasn't for the fact that you are really having to fight on the suspension. Come on, around the hairpin we go, and then booted out the other side. It will get going eventually, but it can't really get going in a straight line properly because it's almost wheeling out of some of the corners. Again, another big dive under brakes. Through the chicane we go. Now, don't turn in too much. Don't lose the back end. Don't end up in the rock face on the inside, or don't fall off on the outside. There's just a lot of things we've got to worry about not hitting. We did actually clip just the slightest brush on the rocks there. And this has been a little bit more of a composed run, if you will, down here. Come on, around the hairpin. Little bit of a struggle getting the power down on the outside. There is a horrible ditch that you can fall into if you're not careful. I mean, this is absolutely fine to be quick through that back chicane up towards the finish line. It's not bad for a rear-wheel drive car, 23.2. It's not quite challenging that W90 for the rear-wheel drive crown. It is good. The suspension, though. The suspension is too bouncy. I think I managed to tear off a wheel and a brake disc. With the caliper's still on the car, the brake disc's gone somewhere back over that way. I'm just about to see the wheel in the very distance spinning away. 23.2. Can I go faster? That is a good question. If I can get everything spot on, maybe. But getting everything spot on is much easier said than done. I feel like maybe a 22, maybe a very high 21 is possible with this car, but I need to get the weight transfer to behave itself. I can't really risk sliding the car around. It feels a little too... I mean, all-wheel drive you can go and get away with a big boot it and hope if the car's got enough grip. This, I think, has enough grip, but not enough consistency, almost. There's a big slide that I didn't really want to get. Oh, carefully does it down towards the first hairpin. We're going left into a right-hander, although it's kind of worked as like a mega Scandinavian flick almost. So, I wouldn't do that intentionally, but we have made it through. Yeah, that grip there is phenomenal, but I can't really exploit it because the car's so inconsistent with where it's going to have, or what it's going to do almost on the suspension. Okay, this is a car that is working pretty well. I think if you've got big enough, like wide enough tyres, the off-road tyres work, you'd probably still be faster with the medium compound or hard compound tyres. However, they can still work with off-roads if they are massive enough. Come on, around the hairpin we go. I daren't touch the handbrake because I know it's likely to just spin the car. And now we just have the acceleration zone towards the finish line. But it's also probably helping it's not quite as fast through there. It's still pretty decent on the exit, though. It gets up to an okay amount of speed. 23.6. I think it's slightly slower, actually. It felt like a better run, but I think it's slightly slower than the previous one. Yeah. There's a lot of potential with some suspension tweaks in that to be a bloody fast rear-wheel drive car. Still, I mean, 23s in a rear-wheel drive car is still better than some all-wheel drive vehicles have done. So that's quite something. However, it's another car, very, very wallowy and a little bit unpredictable. I love that the pretend vortex generators made out of aerials are doing a little dance after the finish line because the roof is flexing. Oh. An entertaining drive at least, and it's nice to see another rear-wheel drive car take on the stage and do, pretty damn well. And the final vehicle to take on the course today has a fairly mighty diffuser going on. At the front is a mean-looking little car built by Mr. Sleepy. It is the Kelly Racing i50T. All-wheel drive, most powerful car of the day at 490 horsepower, 2.5 litre turbocharged i5 up at the front. Tyres, I think, are the medium compound. They certainly are not off-road compound. On this one, yeah, we've got a mean-looking diffuser at the front, or splitter at the front, diffuser at the back, fairly mighty wing going on. It's a good-looking sports car. Good-looking sports car overall. Also, not high and wobble. I mean, it's a little high, for a fact, from that angle. I guess maybe where it was sat, but certainly from here, it's not as high as the other cars we've had running. I'm hoping it won't be as high and bouncy as we have seen from vehicles. We are off the line. We've got short gear ratios going on. We've got No delay in the gear shift, which is nice. There's no ABS to be worrying about either with the car. The power is getting put down and actually being used. That's good. The handling is very good. There's grip in this car. Oh, there's grip in this car, but I've got a little carried away. Okay, there is grip. However, don't be a muppet with it. I got a little excited because it is driving way better than just about anything else we have had. Should probably be that. I'd be surprised if it doesn't end up being the fastest car of the day. Oh, you actually get a look at the tyre tread. So yeah, this is in very different tyres. I think these are the faster tyres that we have seen be used. Now, I will probably be flat through there when the car's okay. We are a little bit broken. It slightly pulls. Oh, that's too much as well. I'm kind of using... Oh, I was using this as an experimental run. We've lost a wheel now. Oh, the wheel's overtaking us. No, no, I must make it further than that. Okay, so we still have to be careful. It does pick up speed quite quickly, to say the least. I'm not going to learn anything now with it missing a wheel. I'm going to hazard a guess, judging by how easily the wheel fell off and everything, and how battered the car's got. Safety on this car has been of no concern. That is something that we have seen. To keep the vehicles below the 15,000 credit mark, sacrifices are made. One of the easy things to do would have been to just dump all the slide. The quality sliders for like safety stuff down and just not put it on the car, because I mean it's a beam conversion to automation. That stuff is irrelevant in this kind of a competition. No one would buy the car in reality, but for this competition it doesn't matter. So it might be why we see some of these cars have very easy to crumple, very easy to lose bits and pieces. If I don't actually know if Beam takes that into consideration, but that's one of the ways you can get some corner cutting for performance out of your vehicle. So we are better this time around now towards the hairpin. I was actually a little early on the brakes. Brakes are very powerful on this car. We are nice around the hairpin. We are very quick to get the power down. Can I be flat through there? Probably not quite. It'll be close. I think we're just carrying too much speed. We've got good grip. We're just carrying way too much speed to be able to be flat. Yeah. There's no turbo lag, certainly no noticeable turbo lag going on with this car. We're going to be just a little careful through here. I don't trust going too crazy. It's that rock face on the outside that'll get you if you are driving like a muppet. Oh, chuck it into the hairpin. Okay, we've overdriven the hairpin a fraction. Like Apex, at least we'll get a good acceleration down here. Are we going to be close to flat through here? I mean, close to flat, not so much. This is a fast run, actually. For a scruffy run, it's into the 16s for the car. It's going to be very close to fighting with the sunburst. Oh, and there goes the wheel again. The wheels fall off very easily. That would be an alarming... If you were to use it for rallying, I'd be concerned how the wheel fell off. Look at it go. Yeah, that would be a concern of mine. Can we ping the other one off as well? Yep, there it goes. Oh no, I think it just pinged it back. I think we just snapped the steering and ping the wheel off. Yeah, that would be a small concern. Can I get... I mean, 2 seconds is a lot to find. Basically, we need to find 2 seconds if we're going to fight the tin foil. Now, if I get all the braking for the hairpins perfect, it might just about be doable. But we'd have to get all the brakings perfect, carry all of the speed, and not clip a bank or something along the way, which, again, way easier said than done. At least it is relatively predictable in terms of a vehicle to drive. I clip that banking, always help get the back of the car around for the corner, which is always, you know, I wouldn't deliberately do it. Also, we've seen this car lose wheels already. It seems like quite the risk to try and do that intentionally. Right, into the hairpin we go. Not too bad. Maybe a touch early on the brakes. I'd much rather that, though, than be too late on them. It's quick through there. Now, can we carry as much momentum as possible through this chicane? Don't slide the back. It does move a bit. It's not planted as ideally I would like, but I'm a funny bugger when it comes to my cars. It's a little wide through there. We can at least get on the power nice and early. We're going to be earlier on the brakes. It doesn't really like the slowing down for the hairpins all that much. Yeah, it's very, very quick, this car. It's very good. I'd be surprised if we beat the tin foil. Oh, we're throwing it into that chicane with some trouble. Keep the foot down. Go for it. No, it doesn't. It's close. Oh, big crash after the finish line. It is close. It is fast. Hairpins are perhaps where it struggles the most a little bit. We got away without losing a wheel. Amazingly, we broke it, but we didn't lose it entirely. Fast car, that one. Into the 15s. It is close. I don't think it quite beats the sunburst, but it is certainly around that sort of time. a bit sketchy in places. Wheel falls off quite easy. However, when you get it right, it is very, very fast indeed. So, on to the leaderboard, and it is the Kelly Racing i50 that'll be fastest of the day. It goes into a 5th place. It cannot quite beat the Sunburst. We are only talking, you know, 3/10 or so of a second. It's pretty much exactly a second down on the Tinfoil RS. A very quick car. A very, very quick car indeed. Getting into the 15s with anything is incredibly good going. Now, we do have to go a little bit further down, but we are still talking into the 1:20 for the TM Motors. It goes into a 19th position with the 19.47. This is, yeah, going to be a little bit more of a busier area, considering there is 100th separating two cars. 19th and 20th are separated by 100th of a second. I suspect as the series progresses, yeah, we will see a few. It's, again, another quick time. Another quick time indeed down this course. We then have to go a little bit further down, not too much further though, to find the car, I guess, or the wobble wagon as I shall call it. 22.1 puts it into 28th position. The Spoon goes into a 32nd with a 23.2. That's pretty damn good going though for a rear-wheel drive car. Yes, it is about, well, it's under 3 seconds slower than the W90, which is our fastest all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive car, sorry. And I feel like the Spoon was close. It was, again, both of these cars from today's episode were both a bit too wobbly. A car, I guess, was far too wobbly on the suspension. The Spoon, a little bit. Not the worst, but yeah, just they're unpredictable and very difficult to get the most out of in a very small amount of time. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.